The greatest power you possess is your ability to choose. Join Lowe's Moore as he reveals how you can begin to maximize that power by exploring yourself on the deepest levels and committing to making lasting and positive changes. Get ready to achieve breakthroughs that will lead to accelerated growth and transformation, because you are now tuned in to The Blueprint.
Why they actions contradict the lamb. I'm fellowshipping when I'm with the fam. That's more relations. That's more.
Good evening and welcome back to the Blueprint Podcast. Hey, I'm Lowe's Moore, and again, I'm excited to be with you guys this week. I'm just hoping, the weather's a little strange out there over these last couple of weeks. I actually get out and walk early in the morning. It kind of reminds me when I go to North Carolina. Both my brothers are in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And if you don't get out before 11 o'clock, don't go out. And I try to get out there early, because as that time from 6 to 11, that North Carolina be heating up, and we experiencing a little heat. My guest tonight is in Georgia, and I'm sure it get a little hot down there too. But this has been suffocating. But I hope that you are protecting yourself. Hey, that means get plenty of fluid, right? And make sure you get plenty of rest, right? And in spite of how hot it is, make sure you eat light. So again, I want to welcome you to the Blueprint and thank you for all your support over these last few years. This has been amazing for me, and it's been a blessing to me. And I want to say thank you guys for your support. I want to jump right in it because, my guest tonight, man, we got a great history, and we can get on a tangent. So we're probably going to need all the time we can get to make sure that these things, that we can get everything in. So let's start out, man. I want to start out with the book of the week, right? And it's by Dr. Miles Monroe, Understanding the Purpose and Power of Men. God's design for the male identity. That's one of my favorite books. One of my really favorite books, and I threw this one in, for my guest tonight. It's called Limitless, right? Dr. Terry Cummings. Finding oneself in the midst of the journey, right? I didn't get that one yet. I just was looking around doing some research, and I found that book. I got to get me a copy of it though, and I'm definitely going to get a copy of that one. So check out those two books, Dr. Miles Monroe and Dr. Terry Cummings. And here's my word of the week. Word of the week is endurance. Right. I like that word, man, because, man, in the times that we live in, we have to learn how to endure. It's a very powerful word. We have to endure mentally and physically and socially and financially. We have to learn how to endure. And with that, here's my quote, affirmation moment. My good friend Hill and Pierce Hopper. Man, look, the race, here it is again. The race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to them that endure to the end. That's when you can wake up. When you wake up and things are not going right, hey, endure, right? And then this is going to be really good here. I want to start with my movie of the week. I like that. It's Loving Basketball. And you see there, you got a little artwork on there. And that's me and my wife over there to the right. Loving Basketball. We both play basketball. Love the movie, man. One of my favorite movies of all time. Last year we were celebrating our 38th anniversary, and we did a photo shoot. We did a bunch of pictures. 37 we did. It was 37, not 38, but we did that photo shoot, and then we went out to dinner. We did that whole scene on Love and Basketball, and in a few weeks, we're going to be celebrating 39 years of marriage. I mean, woo. Yeah. Then we're going to, we don't want to jump past this. We don't want to do this quick, right? We want to, I don't know if you've seen my Facebook page, but I've been doing a countdown, right? A countdown to the 38. And the countdown continues. To the 39. The countdown to the 39. And then we're going to start planning 40. That's going to be woo. It's going to take us about a year to be able to do that. And then finally we have my music of the week. Right? Oh, man. We got Terry Cummings. Man, he's got several albums out, man. I didn't know. My wife said she was always listening to Terry's music. I mean, I don't know why I didn't know. She didn't say anything to me about that. I like that one over there, The Experience of Black Love, and I'm looking forward to hearing Finally, right? And Nothing Is What It Seems. And I Still Believe. I mean, Terry's just gifted, right? He just gifted, man. I don't know what he can't do, right? But we're gonna get to know him a little bit better in a few minutes, and I'm looking forward to next week as well. And we got Mr. AJ Woodson from Black Westchester. We have him on, and it just continues, man. We just can continue. Let me say this to you as I don't know where my little ball is at. I usually drop my seed, drop my pebble in the pond, because I believe that every one of these shows, every person that we interview, I was saying to my wife earlier today that everybody has a story, right? And we were listening to, I can't remember what it was, but we were listening to, it was actually the guy who just won the PGA golf tournament, the 3M golf tournament. Yeah, and he lost his mom in a car accident, but yet he won the championship. He didn't win the championship, but he won the 3M golf tournament today. And I was just thinking, man, they was just about to talk about his mom and how his mom used to take him to all his his tournaments and stuff like that. And he got kind of, teary-eyed over that. And so everybody has a story. And when we learn to overcome, and then my word of the week is endure, right? In this life, you have to learn to overcome, and you have to learn to endure. And so, but I always look forward to Sunday evenings, and sometimes we have specials, but our most consistent day is Sunday evening from 7 to 8:30. So let's check out this highlight, and then we're going to jump right into it.
Cummings from the only supposed to get a 2 count on that going up there. 26-22. Pack him a lunch and get him a Bud Light. Cummings out.
The gap and keeping it closer was the fact that they went to the line 8 times and made 8. The Bucks were 2 for 3.
Cummings. Look at that banker. Thorpe. Bucks will bring it up. Pressey. Cummings penetrating with the reverse layup. 96-95 Kings. Cummings gives the lead. Right again at 99. 8:40 to go in the ballgame. Cummings right there. Theus with the running hook. Not there. Gets the ball back. Stripped with the ball. Buck's going to run it. Pressey looking, dishing off to Cummings, who jams for 2.
Man, we welcome Terry Cummings. Let's see. Minister, elder, pastor, apostle, doctor. What's up, Terry? How you doing,
Oh,
man?
good, Lord, man. It's good to be here with you, man. Been a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely been a long time, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. You know what's so weird?
Mm-hmm.
We played together your rookie year,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was a minute ago. So, like
Yeah.
hours
Almost
ago. Yeah.
40 years.
Yeah. It's a while ago. And you know, life is so crazy because, I was expecting um, to be there to play
Mm-hmm.
more years with you, and you know that next year trying out for retrying out for the Clippers, and then all of a sudden, man, I was gone. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? It's like, and then years go by, and then we reconnect. Life is just so weird, and you said 40 years. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's been that long. Yeah,
yeah,
but it is a cycle. God will always bring us back around when we need each other or when we're supposed to.
yeah, definitely. I tell you, one of the more memorable experience I had by playing in the league, right, was being in San Diego with you. Because most of the time, man, some of the teams I played in, I was probably one of the only guys who was seriously driven by faith.
Mm-hmm.
My relationship with God. And it was just really a breath of fresh air to come to San Diego and to meet you. And I don't know if you remember this. We used to do this intercessory prayer
Mm-hmm.
every time we'd come into a city. We come to each other's room and we pray for that city. And usually, you would have scheduled something to speak while you was in that city. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, we were flying commercial back then, and
Of course.
and so so you had
With the
to,
Clippers, not the Lakers.
they're right. so so we had to stay over, come early, stay over, and wait for your flight. But which was good because you got a chance to schedule some opportunities to share the church, to preach God's word. And I remember the few times I was able to go and you allowed me to share a little testimony or something like that. Man, that was very, very rewarding for me, man.
Yeah.
And a blessing to be in the league with another brother in faith.
Yeah,
You
well,
know.
we were both pretty young back then too, so we both needed that because um, I remember even into my second year with the Clippers, I walked into the owner's Sterling's office, and he was excited to see me. He said, "Well, what can I do for you?" I said, "Well, trade me," because they were moving up to LA, and I didn't want to take my family to LA.
Right.
And he said, "Well, I can't trade you. You're our marquee player." I said, "No, you could trade me." And I said, "Matter of fact, trade me to Milwaukee." And I told him I had a dream. I saw myself playing in Milwaukee.
Mm.
And so he said he wasn't going to do it, but I promise you, before that training camp of that third year, before I think I only went to one day of training camp, and the next about maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, got a call I was traded to Milwaukee. I was the dude jumping up and down on the bed.
Yeah, you got to go back home.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, those were good time, and we had some good players, man.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought really the next year, I thought we were going to be really good, and then they end up trading for Norm Nixon.
Right.
Yeah, and then I became expendable.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we don't, when we have relationships back then like that, we don't know the power we possess. Like you just said, um, yeah, I went in the office, I went in the owner's office, and I told him I wanted to be traded.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you have relationships like that from brother to brother, and you have that power, sometimes you could say who goes and who stays,
Right.
but we don't know that.
Well, especially back then, it's not like it wasn't like it is now with LeBron and them just moving around, catching their buddies and saying, let's three of us get together and let's go win championships. Back then, cats were more loyal, and then we didn't know, even though we had power, we didn't know the extent of it, because if I'd have known then what I learned over time, I'd have left with Lowe's and everybody else in my rookie year. When we had a whip, when you had a lot of young guys mixed with a bunch of guys in their twilight, James Donaldson, Bill Walton, Swin Nader, Randy Smith, a lot of guys that were in the twilight of their careers, but with the right mix of young and old and in between seasoned guys, you could do a lot. The league was just and is a very political system. I mean, they decide, they choose. I'm not saying they're above God, because God always has the last say so, but the league predetermines a lot of things as to what they want to do, and people think you're just talking when you say that. But the truth is, I can tell you right now, in the off season, who the league, and when I say the league, I mean the owners and the commissioner. They tell you who they want to win what, who's going to be MVP, who's going to win the championship, who they want to be in the championship game. And the reason for it is it's all about money for them and exposure. And they have a business that on just name and likeness alone is about $2 billion around the world. So a lot of decisions and choices that were made back there are still being made now on players' careers. The difference is players are taking advantage of the fact that they have more say-so in what goes on,
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they don't, we, most of the time, we just love playing. I mean, I think that's one of the most important thing. And we really didn't have anybody to speak to us about business, understanding the business side of the business and political side of the game.
Right.
Right. And that's like going back to college. Yeah. From college to the pros, man, it's pure money.
Yeah.
It
is. And it's their brand against you.
Yeah.
If you get in trouble, they tell you, we're not interested in you. We're interested in what comes before you. And it's always NBA player so-and-so did such and such. It's always the NBA in their brand. And so, when I talk to people and they ask me about this whole thing with LeBron and players like him moving around and bringing other players with him, I'm glad that they do it, because they get the right to do that because of players like us, who came before them. And I think it goes too far, and it's gone too far, but I think that the objectivity of it all is right, that you should be able to choose where you want to go, because the owners have always done that. They traded whenever they wanted to. They made you uproot your families whenever they wanted to. They changed the style and type of contract by how they moved you around, whether they played you a lot or a little. And the owners have always had the ball in their court, but now they have to deal with the fact that these young cats don't mind getting up, moving on their own, as long as they're moving where they want to move.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. No, it is a different day and a different time, and I'm hoping that the percentages of players today, what you just said, I'm hoping that the percentage will increase of that knowledge, of that awareness, because there's, I would have probably had to say, is 90% of the guys or 80% of the guys in the league still don't know the business.
No.
They still like us. We're just playing, and it's about, man, that 20% or 10% that knows the business and knows the politics.
And it's even more diverse now than it was when we played, because again, shoot, that's 40 years ago. I've been retired for 22. So it's 40 years ago, and the NBA was in a place back then where it had fell off. And right before we came into the league, they made that ABA NBA connection and drew them together. But then the league was still suffering a little bit, and then you add to that scenario the Larry Birds, the Irving Magic Johnsons, and of course us coming in as well. You know, that whole crew around from 79 to about 83, 84 was what changed the NBA and the way it was perceived. And Mike Jordan came in, I believe, in 85.
Right.
You know, so it was a different game then, because, you know, as a big guy, one of the first things I noticed when we came in the league, Lowe's, was that mostly all the big guys that I was going up against didn't have no grill. All of them, because back then everybody was fighting, and they would knock. The first thing to go was the grill, you know. And they hadn't quite gotten to the point where everybody was wearing mouthpieces and stuff like that. They were literally just like going outside balling, but in an arena, you
Right.
know.
Yeah,
And,
No,
that changed a lot for me. Me and kid coming from the streets of Chicago, I was cool with it. If we're gonna box, we're gonna box. We're not gonna talk. We're gonna box.
Yeah, definitely. And I was mentioning, you know, I had a hard time. Me and my wife used to fuss back not when we were playing, but in recent years, we used to fuss about LeBron James, and I love LeBron. I'm from, met LeBron, a few times, and you know, hung out with him a few times, but I had a hard time, man, when first 5 years in the league, getting him in my top 25. So my top 50, the top 50. They say, you crazy, man. He's top 25. There was so many great players.
Yeah.
It was just like, and especially we had seen so many great players.
Right.
And then we being in the league playing against great players, and then all of a sudden, a guy jumps from out of nowhere and he's in the top 5. I was like, I struggle with that a little bit, but I learned. I've come around. I've come around, and but we forget about. We forget about. I think when I look at I was thinking about it the other day, as I was doing some research on you and stuff like that. I was like thinking, like, you know what, Terry could have been LeBron James. I mean, literally, this prototype of LeBron, this power, 6'8", 6'9", power forward who could bring the ball down the court, who could dish the ball, who could shoot the ball, who could drive that handle. I mean, you were that. People don't look at it, but you were kind of that prototype before LeBron James. But the rules were different.
Yeah,
big guys don't do that. Power forwards don't do that. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, everybody could do that.
Yeah, and they all shooting out they started the offense out at the 3-point line. But I don't even think I think it started with me, and I think that the next group was the Charles Barkley, Karl Malone cats. Yeah. And in that group that I played with you and from like 82, 83 to the 90s, there were a whole bunch of cats that had LeBron type skills, a whole lot more than the only one that's playing now. So when people ask me about LeBron and how is he the greatest player that ever played, I said, well, no, because then you'd have to measure him by the greatest players that ever played the game, not Michael Jordan, because they're not. I mean, Mike is to me the best and the greatest player to play the game on the NBA level. But you can't measure them two. They're not the same in size, the way they work, or nothing. And the one thing that I think LeBron James does not do that our game did back then is he don't have any low post presence. And I think it's the biggest difference. I think if he really wanted to put a stamp on his game, that would be it. And it's the only difference is he's running the offense from the low post, which is the way the game was built to be, instead of from the 3-point line. And because that 3-point line takes a toll on you. When you're the biggest dude on the court and you posting up, it adds to your lineage, it adds to your time in the league, because a lot of guys got punished down in that low post. You go down there and push and elbow, do all you want to, but down there in the blood, that's where you make your living.
Yeah, and you even your great players. I mean, when you talk about Michael Jordan, eventually, from that sprint up, him and Kobe Bryant, that sprint up and
Oh
down the
yeah,
floor. Eventually, what happened? They went to the post and they created the fadeaway and
yeah,
all the other moves down there, and they
oh yeah,
they became very effective low post players.
yeah. And you're
You
right.
know,
The word that was forming on your lip, on your tongue, they evolved.
yes.
They
Hmm.
evolved, and the best, because I remember when Charles Barkley first came in and Karl Malone, they couldn't shoot a jump shot to save their lives. And their whole game was low post. So when we wanted to slow down or stop somebody like that, we would double team them because
Mm.
they couldn't shoot past about 10, 12 feet. But both of them gained in their arsenal the ability to make outside shots up to 15, 17 feet. And sometimes at the 3-point line with Charles Barkley. But
Yeah.
all of that stuff didn't exist until that 82, 83 draft. Because really, you had three of us in that draft. You had James Worthy, number one. I was
Mm.
number two. And then Dominique Wilkins was number three in that draft. All three of us could do what my man is doing right now, what LeBron is doing.
Yeah,
All
that's
three
true.
of us could handle the ball. All three of us could run all day. All three of us had low post games, something that he doesn't have. And the skill level to pass, maybe not as often as he does, when he's doing it, because I was more of a scorer and a rebounder and the enforcer as time went on. But the other two, they were finesse players,
Yeah,
James
yeah,
Worthy and Dominique.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, that I enjoyed my time and with all our teammates, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I roomed a little bit with Craig Hodges. That's
Right.
my boy. Yeah,
Chicago boy.
yeah, he can shoot it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we had some great players, and my wife and I, man, we connected with Randy Smith, man, a few years back before his passing, man,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to go up. He used to work at this casino, Mohegan Sun. He used to
Mm-hmm.
be the celebrity guy up there, man,
Oh,
and
really?
he looked the same. I mean, we used to go up
Oh,
and play golf with them and stuff like that, and just stay over and yeah, he bringing celebrities and stuff like that to the Mohegan Sun, man. It was just shocking to see what an amazing athlete, man. I mean, this
oh
guy,
yeah.
buddy.
Oh yeah. But
He,
cats like them help me identify levels of speed. Like Mo Cheeks is quick.
mhm.
Randy is fast.
Yeah, yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
it's like you don't know until you in that grind and you watch and catch. You're like, he don't look like he doing nothing, but Mo is really quick.
Hmm.
Randy outrun everybody. You could throw the ball out there, that joker would be out there like a sprinter. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then he had the jumper. He was one of the first guards too. Um, that I saw could be going full speed and stop on the dime
Oh
and
yeah.
and pull up. You
Oh,
know,
and you know what? Him and Lionel, because Lionel Hollins was on
right?
the team too as well, and man, seasoned veterans. I mean, just but
Mhm.
balling out, just playing like crazy. And Lionel's on. We have a Christian men's call on Wednesdays, and for years Lionel's been on the call. We've been discussing the word of the Lord and being blessed by each other's fellowship and yeah, but we don't even know. Most people don't even know about Lionel and Randy and woo,
Well, I
man.
think that's the key. The key is that they only assume basketball started with Michael Jordan. And I feel sorry for a lot of people because you're missing why and how he came to be. I mean, there were always other players before us as well,
Hmm.
who to coin your phrase, they were the blueprint that we followed. We just
Hmm.
brought our talents and placed them on that blueprint and expanded that blueprint, you know. And
Yeah.
every year it's the same. It gets expanded more and more. But the problem is a Janet Jackson song. What have you done for me lately? Because as soon as you pass from your place of influence where you played and the people adored you and all that, they literally forget you unless you stay on board. And I chose not to. I chose, for me, a different lifestyle. I didn't want to stay in the league coaching and working in an admin place for 30, 40 years. It would have been cool. I mean, you'd have had guaranteed income, but by stepping away from it and moving into what is actually my call in life that brings greater peace to me than all the money in the world, it separated me from the league and from a lot of the guys and the history behind what we do and what we've done. And that's why we have to, people like yourself and me, we have to literally accept the fact that this is our par for the course. I mean, we have a greater call, and we can't afford to be what everybody else is. I mean, if you're going to be different, be different. Don't just be the different when the light is on, be it when it's off.
That's right.
You know,
which is a good segue or transition into, getting to know TC. Talk to me about. And I'm sure we're going to end back on basketball, but talk to me about growing up. I had three things on the show I think are very important for us. You mentioned it earlier. Number one, the importance of family, the importance of faith, and the importance of education. And then you growing up in Chicago, your mom, your dad, and that whole process. And take me into some of that.
No, I'm a self-proclaimed little ghetto kid, but but by far just borderline. Everything that I could have been in the world, I was saved from by the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And it's not a religious statement. I'm a relational dude with Him. And all of my life has been the same. I chose not to be religious. I chose not to be churchy. I've chosen with my life just to be who God says I am. And growing up in the streets, we weren't forced to go to church past 13. My mom told us that we reached a certain age, we needed to make our own choice. And in that time, boy, I raised so much hell in them 3 years before I got saved that it became, the pinnacle of my life, in that I could look back to when I was 16 and first got saved, and God delivered me from the streets and stuff. And I can tell you that is the inception of my relationship with God, and then from there, played at high school for 2 years. I'm one of 13 children, 7 boys, 6 girls. I have 3 sons. I played 2 years high school, 3 years college, and was gifted to play 18 years on the pro level. And I'm telling you this too, Lowe's. I was a much better player the last 6 or 7 years of my career than I was when everybody was saying how great he was and all of that, because those 6 or 7 years I played the whole game. I mean, I played on both sides consistently. I fought the game, planned the game. I had the visualization process going on, which is when you see yourself do it before you do it, and I was really cognizant a whole lot more of who I was then. And I understood my role because I had been the guy starting for about 10 or 11 years. And then in those last 6 or 7 years, I had to come off the bench with the same mentality of a starter, but understand what my role was.
Yeah.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I think we all transition to that place. When I left the NBA and ended up in with the Albany Patroons, right? It was the same thing as a transition of not being a starter, but then my role was as a guy coming off the bench. So and then in the midst of that, now you're raising a family, right? You know what's important is not just playing basketball, but raising now, talking about legacy. I had 2 girls at the time, and just trying to, between me and my wife, and then you still got your brother, your mom, your brothers and sisters, and you got the all mother and father-in-law. So
Preaching to the choir.
yeah, so so yeah, and family, family so important. I mean, but 13, yeah, there is 13. Where did you fall in the?
In the middles, there's like 5 above me and 7 underneath me. And you're so correct about the family thing. It's the only thing that outside of God is a constant. You know what you're going to get out of your family, good, bad, or indifferent. The problem was, when we came to the forefront of fame and started making money, we also started running into people who wanted, with their hands out, wanted to take away from that seed and to gain some kind of access to it. And it took me a little while to learn, even with my family. Them jokers, if ain't nothing wrong with you and you can work, you need to work. Because I mean, in an emergency, you can count on me, but I cannot and will not be God. There are things that you need to do on your own that you have to give yourself to. And if you don't, that's going to be a constant flaw, because then they're going to keep coming back to us as if we can answer all the questions that they're indebted to, that they're going through,
Yeah. Yeah. My wife is going to be putting up some pictures. So
I see. Got them boys on there.
Yeah. Now we remember TJ, man.
Yeah.
My wife always said,
one, TJ with the dreads.
Yeah. When we were in San Diego, you had TJ.
Right.
And my wife said he was the biggest 2-year-old she had ever seen, man. I mean,
I called him the Black Gerber baby. That joker was so fat.
Yeah, he had the deep voice too, man.
Yeah, that joker was thick. But my mom told me, she was alive at the time, and my mom told me, she said, you was just like him when you were little. You were big. She said, Johnny, my dad I used to make him carry you. She said he'd carry you around the corner and make you get down and walk.
Oh man. Yeah. And so this is the crew.
Yeah, this is let me see, is this everybody? This ain't let me see who's missing in this picture. Diamond is my oldest granddaughter. She's about 24. And Aiden is not in there. So this is about 8 of them, 8 of the grandchildren, all 3 of the boys, and the 2 oldest boys, their wives are in the picture.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
Los, you still get out and play? See, you wouldn't even have to ask me that question and wait for me to answer it, because I'll be like, nope.
Well, I think last year, during the summertime, I went to Louisville to play in this tournament. And I was really in decent shape before the pandemic, man. I played in a couple of tournaments.
You're prefacing that for a reason, I know.
Yeah, and I got out there. Hey, I like to say we were really good players. Especially when I was younger, we're just really good players.
Right.
And I had a moment last year where I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm like a shell of what I was.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to be a shell, And up until before the pandemic, I was playing really well, and but I started looking out there and seeing the guys, in my age range, and also 70, 75, 75, 80, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be doing that. No. But nah, man, I like to get it. I like to shoot around.
Yeah, I'll do that. As long as I don't have to run, I can still mechanically do and scientifically do what I've always done, But the thing is I think I retired and I went and played the pickup game. And I promise you, the whole time we were on the court, these jokers was arguing and fussing and talking about shooting each other. So I was like, God, Lee, I don't belong out here. This disturbed my whole mindset. Because I actually opened my mouth. I said, are we gonna play ball or are we gonna sit up and complain and argue the whole time? They're like, man, woo, 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 woo. And I understood from their perspective that the moment I stepped on that court, I changed the dynamics.
Right.
Because now we can't lose, because if we do, we ain't ever getting back on the court. That's the mentality coming from the other brothers. And so they, false calls, but chest bumping and talking crazy to you. And like for me, I realized real early on that I didn't want to do this because I'm serious about what I do. And you can't chest bump me, because I'm gonna chest bump you twice as hard. That's the way I've always played. But I realized that these generations of ballers ain't used to no contact. They especially not used to you popping them, because they don't know how. They don't have hand speed, or they don't use their hands, or they can't box. They can't box, so they got to run for the trump. Or
right.
like in I played in while I was still in the league, I would play in some pro-ams. I played in the one in Chicago. I played at Rutgers. I played in one in San Antonio. The guy in San Antonio kept threatening me, told me he was going to get his gun out the car. And I looked at him, I told him, I said, bruh, how are you going to get out of here? I said, I'm breaking your legs and your arms. You think I'm going to be sitting here waiting on you? I said, you never threaten a real brother and tell him you go in your car. You ain't going to make it. No, you're not going to make it. I said, he said, I know you. I said, no, you know what you read. I said, let me tell you about me. I said, I'm a half second off letting you know who I really am. I said, and they're going to be carrying you up out here because I'm not sitting here waiting on you to come. But those kind of situations taught me that I didn't need to be out there no more. If I want to do something with basketball, I have to be an ambassador, and just spreading the word of it. But, because I know me, I know how to defend myself, and I know how to talk. When jokers talking to you crazy, I know how to get right with them. I know when it's time to level off, but a lot of times when you even on the pro level, can't get up in your face. He's trying to take your heart. And by taking your heart, he takes your mind from the game you playing. And so you have to be stronger mentally and stronger from the heart place. And thirdly, you got to be willing by any means necessary to prove to them they're not going to step all over you. Because that's how you gain the respect of people. Because when they figure out it's not going to be a one punch or one word argument. And because I would literally tell guys, I said, you can say what you want to say. I said, but I promise you this, if you and I get into it, this fight ain't going to stop until I say it's over. So you need to think about that before you start it.
Yeah. And, many people don't know that back in the day, that's the way it was. I mean, every play was trying to chump you. I mean,
take your heart.
I remember I was playing against Calvin Murphy. Mm-hmm. Right. And I saw him, man, he was real little. So I seen him. So what I did was go right to the post. I went right to the post, and just turn around on him, slap the backboard. Right. So, and so I'm pedaling back, as a rookie, I'm pedaling back. He came at me like 100 miles an hour, man. He just elbowed me right in the throat. Right. He elbowed me right in the throat. I hit the ground, jumped back up, man, and we there, right? I'm there, like ready to go. And he's going crazy. I said, I heard your reputation, man. Come on, man. I'm from Mount Vernon, man. Come on.
Yeah, he was different. That joker was knocking out 7-footers.
He was running up him. Yeah, man.
Because there was so much stuff back then that wasn't related to skill in basketball, but it was all about getting the mental edge on cats. And a lot of them older guys, they would do anything it took. I played against Elvin Hayes and James Bailey and guys that some of these guys people won't probably remember at all. But these jokers, James Bailey could jump out the building.
Oh yeah,
he's the dude that they said blocked Kareem's sky hook.
Yeah.
And he was my size, 6'9", about 250, 260, and could get up.
Well, we played him at least 3 times a year because he was in the Eastern 8 with us, man. Jamming James Bailey, that dude. When they threw an alley-oop, boy, man. I mean,
head and shoulders.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, man, I remember one time I went to the basket, went straight to the basket, about to lay it up, and Moses Malone just snatched me out the air.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just threw me to the ground, man. He let me get it up. He said, man, take your little behind out there somewhere, you know, like that. Yeah. And I got up off the floor. I said, I'll be right back.
But you know, that was the what's the word? One of the things that I was taught from the time I was in high school is that you use 2 fouls every game, at least 2 you get on purpose. Mm-hmm. One is with that guard like you that like to drive to the basket, putting them on the floor, and the other is going at the biggest guy on the opposing team and let them know you run things.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
I was a witness to that, man. Your first year, you dunked on a few people. I was like, whoa,
mm-hmm.
man. And them guys talking junk, man. You come down the lane, man. You see Kevin Willis on the ground, and man, he's like, that dude for real right there, man. You should make a statement every game, and used to foul somebody every game. Like, yeah.
Toward the end of my career, I had a reporter come to me, and he told me, he said, you're in the top 2 with number of fouls, as toward the end of the season. He said, you foul pretty much more than anybody. And he said, what do you think of that? And I told him, I said, well, I can't take them home. I can't take them home, so I use them. I wasn't a starter. I would use 4, 5, 6, sometimes 5 out just because.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. And the Clippers year, of course, you were Rookie of the Year, that year.
Mm-hmm.
I got to witness it.
Yeah, that was fun. It was fun playing with you. I think one of the unique things about that Clippers team, my rookie season, is it was so many dudes that could really do it. But I think that since some of them were, at the end of their careers, I think they were just burnt out too. I mean, because who else was on that team? Jerome Kelsey. Remember Jerome?
Yes.
Was it Kelsey or Kels who played with Magic?
Yes.
Played with Magic.
Yeah.
And, but he was one of them dudes that taught me, because that joker was dirty.
Tom Chambers.
Tom
Chambers.
Yeah.
And we had a whip, because we were the both of us, we were the small and the big forward.
Yes.
Chambers, and boy, that rookie year, Sterling came into the locker room after a game, Donald Sterling, and had on a fur coat and jumped in the arms of Tom. Tom turned plum red. From that moment on, it was hatred. He had no love for Donald Sterling, but Donald was just different.
Yeah, he was a different
kind of guy,
Yeah. And it's so crazy when I first got to the team, right? And I was just excited to be there, like, man, because I got picked up. My first game was in New York, Madison Square. They flew me in Madison Square Garden, and I ended up having, I think I had got Douglas jersey on, number 13, Douglas. They gave me a Douglas jersey. And I remember scoring 14 points right out the gate. And we ended up beating the Knicks and going to Boston and beating Boston. We kind of got on the road, beat the Lakers.
Uh-huh.
We were rolling, man. I was balling out too, man. But I remember when I finally got, because we was on a road trip, only 5 or 6 games on a road trip, and we finally got back to San Diego, and we had our first practice. And I remember Bill. I don't even know if Bill was on the road with us.
He picked when he would play in practice.
Yeah. But the funniest thing was when my first game in New York, I got in the elevator, and he was in the elevator with me. So he looked down and he said, "Hey, what's up, young fella?" Like that. "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" And so we walk out the hotel, and we're getting in the bus. So I'm still walking behind him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He don't know I'm on the team, right? So he's like, he step up in the bus, and I'm about to step up. Hey, no, this is a team bus. You can't get on here. And then somebody said, "No, he's on the team."
That joker was funny. He was funny.
Here's the craziest thing. So we're in practice, right? And everybody's standing like a mile away from Bill, right? In the layup line, right? And I said, I'm like, why don't you get up closer? You know, like that man just run up close to Bill, and all of a sudden he was eating garlic or whatever he was eating.
Yeah, he wasn't showering back then.
He wasn't
soap.
showering. He was eating garlic and all that stuff. I ran up on him and like, oh my God. Went back to the end of the line.
Yeah, he was in that hippie lifestyle. I remember a conversation I had with Bill Walton once. I was tired and burnt out. And I told Bill, I don't feel like practicing. He said, it's not in your contract you have to practice. And I told him, you have to be 7 foot and white to think that way.
Oh, man. And I forgot the other Bobby, what's his name? I forgot.
The guard?
Yeah, he was with the Portland Trailblazers with Bill.
Yeah.
We went out for a speaking engagement. I had just gotten there. They wanted me to go out for a speaking engagement. And we used Bill's car, right? He said, we're going to take Bill's car. And he had a Mercedes Benz, right?
Doodoo Brown.
Yeah. That thing was, and he used to drive it in the woods. Right? He had mud everywhere. I said, look, I'm not getting in that car. He drove it like he had a Jeep.
Yeah, it's not just that. When in the mornings when we had those early flights leaving out of San Diego, Bill would drive up to the luggage area and there was none but a cloud inside. You couldn't even see him till he got out the car. The joker with the weed, he was smoking so heavy by the time he got, and then think about it. He played every 4th or 5th game or something. He decided when he was going to play.
That's right. He did.
Yeah,
man. but those are some good times.
That was the league then. That was the mentality of an Allen Iverson before it even existed.
Oh yeah, I remember my rookie year. I go to Milwaukee, and we had to tape. We didn't have a place to tape in our locker room, so we had to go to the Milwaukee's locker room to tape. And I went in there, and Big Bob Lanier was in there.
Daba.
He had a foot, that big 24 foot there, and I'm looking at his feet. I'm like, oh my God, what's that? And he's in there smoking a cigarette. He's like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? I was like, what?
But that was the transition point because Dauber was one of the last old school guys. Bob Lanier, great guy. A believer too. And he and I would talk from time to time. But I remember when I got traded from San Diego to there, he came and he punched me in the chest. He said, man, I'm mad at you. And I said, why? He said, you should have came when I was in my prime. We'd have been winning some championships. And I said, I feel you, I feel you, but I'm here now.
Yeah.
I had a lot of stories, man. Cats that, things that went on people might not know about. I was almost traded for Julius Erving to go to Philadelphia, and he was going to wind up in Milwaukee, and he chose not to do that. I think he had a do not trade clause. But I think sometimes when people don't really realize the nature of how gifted and you were or how good you were at what you did, you can always tell in the ancillary things that go on in the background that most people don't pay attention to. Like a trade for Julius, even in his prime, with a young guy 2-3 years in the league averaging about 24 points and 10 boards a game, that tells you something.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And man, those are good times, man. And that Milwaukee, you just turned it up another notch.
I had some coaching. But we were in.
You ain't gonna talk about Paul Silas, are you?
No. The other cat, what was it, Jim Lynam? He was there the second year. You left.
God,
But Paul was cool.
I enjoyed Paul.
Man,
he let me
Paul
play.
He used to let me loose on Larry Bird because he didn't like him. Right. So when we would get in a bind down 5 or 10 points, they said, get a ball to TC and move out the way. Now work his tail because he couldn't move laterally. He couldn't move fast. Now he could score on anybody.
Right.
But the way you nullified him is you put somebody on him that could score.
Right.
I used to give him the business, because first of all, I knew that I had to play at that level that high level when we played Boston, LA, Chicago, New York. And so when we would play against him, and my eyes would get so big because I knew he couldn't stick me.
Yeah, that's like when we, in the second half of the season, we played a lot of Magic. It was just coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like telling Paul, man, I was like, oh, I looked out there at Magic. I was like, man, he like 6'9", man. I said, Paul, give me the ball, man. There's no way in the world he can stay in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I run by him, he be reaching. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, you gonna need some help all night, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
And
man.
that's that. But that game we played in the 80s and 90s was a game filled with cats with pride more than ego. That had pride for our communities. We knew we represented our community. We left behind our families, our friends. We were representing, and we were aware and cognizant of it. These kids are not. They think that it's all about them,
Yeah.
and this is not knocking them. It's just when you're ignorant and unlearned, you just don't know. You don't know that path is something different. It's something to be said about you when you understand, who you're there in the place of.
Right. Yeah. And so, talk to me a little bit about now, you finish high school and then you end up going to DePaul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what that experience was like. Had a great coach.
Mm-hmm. Well, every school in the country was recruiting me, but I hadn't heard from DePaul. So I called them and asked them, I said, why are you all not recruiting me? Because I'm in the city, right?
You're right.
And I had gone to Iowa with Lute Olson and visited University of Iowa, and I was on my way to UNLV with TARP to visit the school. And I decided, through prayer and everything, I wanted to stay closer to home. And it came down to DePaul and Loyola. And so when I called them, they said, well, we've been trying to get through to you, but your coach won't let us talk to you. So I recruited myself to DePaul. I went down there, looked at the campus. I said, I'm going to come here. This is where I'm coming. And got there, fell in love with Ray Meyer more than the school and everything. And me and him would spend hours, before practice, during practice, after practice, talking about everything from politics to religion and b-ball. And he became like a away from home kind of grandfather, father type. It encouraged a lot of things in me. And one of the greatest things that I got from that organization, which was really Ray, is they allowed me to be a man. They never treated me like a boy, and I never acted like one. I always carried myself, as a man. And so they respected that. I mean, so much so that I think even though when I first came there, I wasn't the guy on the team the first 2 years, because they told me, we don't care how good you are. This is Mark Aguirre's team. And I said, okay, fine. Because I went through this in high school. In high school, I came in as a sophomore thinking I was going to play. They set me on the bench for the whole year and told me, you're not going to play till your time come. And it didn't come to my junior year. So by the time I got to DePaul and they said that to me, I was fine. I knew how to step into a role. And so I stepped into the role of being really much less a player than I really was. But I averaged double figures in rebounds those 2 years because I outworked everybody. I ran and got mine off the boards. I stayed around the board on the offensive side. I did all the dirty work. And then in my junior year, the year that Mark went pro, we were playing a nationally televised game against Louisville. And nobody on the team had pretty much stepped up to make it their team. But after the Louisville game, it was clear it was my team. I wound up with about 38, 39, and about 21 boards in that game, and we beat them on national television.
Yeah, I think, man. Yeah, you was balling out, man.
It was fun. It was fun back then. You could outwork cats and steal their heart at the same time, because most guys on the pro level are not willing to put in that effort. I mean, during the game, if you hit them with your A move and they stop you, they'll either stop shooting or find something else to do on the court. But our group we had A game, a B game, a C game, a D game because we could shoot, we could drive, we could post, and we could run the floor. So we always had a means to get ourselves involved in the offense. But the most important piece was to at least try to play defense. And then you think about it, with the real good teams that I played with that were defensive teams, I was told as soon as I got to Milwaukee, you only have to play defense for 3 or 4 seconds because help is coming. Man, when they told me that, I was like, oh, I'm going to be real good here. I ain't got to do nothing but hold this joker for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then my help is coming down from the top or the wing. So it was like no brainer. You ain't got to be the best or the greatest. You just got to be wise enough to play your role.
Yeah, no. And yeah, but even in the midst of that, I'm going to, digress a little further, but, and we were talking earlier about faith, right? And then, so the whole process of, now you're playing ball, you school ball, and then now you deal with some health issues. When you talk about faith, all that and about faith and how did you adjust? Already knowing she was 16 years old, he was in the ministry at 16, and phenomenal basketball player, good student, and then you're talking about health situations.
Yeah, I wasn't a scratch the surface kind of believer. I went all in. When I got saved, I got saved. I had my first child when I was 17 years old, and it taught me a level of discipline and faithfulness that I needed to have to make sure that my son had the best life and was raised. And I mean, I love this dude. He's my eldest, but it when I collapsed in the game in Utah, I think you were there. It was in that first my first year and your first year there too, and it changed a lot of things in me because initially when they told me I could never play again, I went with that. Okay, and if that's what it is, that's what it is. I'm gonna figure out something else to do because God called me to the ministry, so I'm gonna figure out what that means now. And so one night I was just laying there and I said, Lord, I just don't want to live in that woulda, coulda, shoulda realm. I want to know for a fact, and how it is when you set your mind to do something godly, the enemy is speaking loud. You can hear him in your inner hearing. And so I remember one day just getting up after about 3 months and leaving my then mother-in-law's house and going out to the park in my sweats and running the whole way there. I could hear the enemy talking to me. But the further I got away from the house and the more I ran, the less I heard his voice. And after about a week or two of running, I knew I could play. I knew I could keep this under control. And I had to go to the doctors and tell them I'll take the medicine because I believe that's decent and in order for what I've been going through. But I want to regulate it. I don't want you regulated because the way you are regulated keeps me high and slow. And so I wound up regulating the medicine. And I really believe, Lowe's, that the difference between my thing and a Reggie Lewis and some of the other cats that went through the same heart arrhythmias, tachycardias, is that my faith kept me. And it doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. It doesn't mean that they didn't have faith. It's just that I had enough radical faith to believe that God has sent me here to do something. And I was on mission and assignment. And he sent me here knowing that I was going to have this issue. Sorry about that. He sent me here knowing that I would have this issue. And my job was to stay firm and faithful to the mission that God had put me on. Because if he wanted to take me, he could have took me that day in Utah when I collapsed. But from that time on, I got another year in with San Diego. I came back for that second year and didn't miss a beat, averaged about 23, 24 points a game, 10 boards, and then got traded at the end of that second year and played 6 years in Milwaukee, or 5 with them. And all of those I averaged over 20 and 8 or 9 boards. So it's like it was for me a defining point in my life. You're gonna live in trust and be faithful, or you're gonna go out and sit over there and just get old and dusty, over time. Because I mean, it's like there are a lot of things in our lives that happen to us that hamper our vision forward, but we still have to choose. For instance, I was praying about a year or so ago, and the Spirit of the Lord came and spoke to my heart, and He said, you're in a season of your life right now where you have to decide whether you're going to go on and finish the mission that I set you on, this assignment, or you want to settle down. He was giving me options, and I told the Lord, no, I want to finish. He said, no, think about it. This is going to be the last run, and you're going to have an opportunity to do it. Do you want to finish it, or do you want to sit down? And I told him I don't want to sit down. I've never really been good at it anyway. So, let me just do whatever it is you want me to do, because I'm not clear as to everything, but I want to get it in.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, in the midst of that, man, Milwaukee in particular, making 2 All-Star teams. I mean, I was definitely proud of you then. That's an amazing accomplishment, man.
Yeah, that's grace there.
Yeah,
because you think about, look at these guys. You had to get picked by the coaches and everybody to play on these teams. But every year, with all the numbers I was putting up, politically, I wasn't making those All-Star teams. I only made 2 out of about 12 years of playing at that height and that level. And it shows you how competitive we were at the time. It's not like now the guys almost guaranteed spots just on the basis of, their name. Back then, you had to earn a roster spot, and you were being measured by guys who were equal to you, some not so much so, but that's just being honest. But a lot of them, it was just politics,
Yeah.
But I learned early on, ain't no need of sitting up here crying over spilled milk. Just know how good you are and make them respect that,
Right. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I was never in an All-Star game, but I went to the All-Star game. But
See, I was there.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, but
Michael Jordan.
man, you had Charles Barkley, Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, Mark Jackson, Mark Price, Moses Malone, Kevin McHale, Brad Daugherty. Oh, you had the great Lenny Wilkins, Larry Nance, Patrick Ewing. Woo, that's a dream team all by itself.
Yeah. It's it was why those All-Star games were really important. The first one, in both All-Star games, I played in domes. I played in front of the largest crowds in the history of the NBA for an All-Star game. One in Indianapolis and the other in Houston. And the one in Indianapolis was special because I brought my mom and dad, and I mean they loved it. 'Cause my dad wound up passing that same year in '85, and I was 25. And then my mom passed the year I retired. And so she's been gone 22 years. So it's been this part of the walk sometimes gets lonely because certain parts of your support system's not there for you. But now I represent that for a lot of young cats. Just being there to encourage and nurture and help them through some things. Whether it ain't all b-ball, it's life.
Yeah.
I got something for you all. I bet y'all don't know.
Okay.
Patrice, you listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
You all's loving basketball thing.
Yeah.
I'm in the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know now.
We researched that. Hey, and that's why. Well, first of all, that's why I put the movie up. Because you was in it.
You didn't say nothing. That's why I brought it up. That was the second movie I done. And actually, I read for the father's part in that movie because they thought they were going to do more basketball scenes than they did. And the DVD, has about 2 scenes that I was in that they deleted from the film, but they're on the DVD, deleted scenes.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I was like, man,
Is that Terry?
yeah, I knew it was
It's
Terry,
a
but I was
blur.
like,
Yeah, you
yeah,
blink, that joker gone.
yeah. And I was like, is Terry a bartender?
Yeah. Bartender and Bodyguard. Those are
And
the 2
Bodyguard.
movies I played in.
Okay, okay.
I got to get off them bees.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about about ministry and the church. And you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both have.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's the joy of my life, because I know that it's all predicated on the relationship I have, with the Lord. It was not something I wanted. I did not chase after it. I did not choose it for myself. It is literally the thing that God called me to do, and I do it well in the sense that I follow. I yield, I submit, and I humble myself, and I don't put myself out in front of people. I never have. I've always had a knack for just understanding, what it is God wants. He wants a contrite heart and a humble heart. He wants us to, question him and ask him questions about things. And I've learned that until I did that, I wasn't going to move forward in ministry. But pastoring is a tool that God uses to sharpen us in ways that just evangelizing won't do. Because I pastored pastors for about 25, 30 years before I started pastoring. And I thought that I had knowledge enough to know what pastoring was, but you don't know until you put into it, and you're responsible for these people to God, and you're with them 7 days a week, on call 24 hours a day, because that is your vocation. That is what God's called you to. And you are not too big for it. I don't care who you are or what you think you've done. If God calls you to do something, you humble yourself and you do it. You lay down everything else and you do it. And ministry for me is making people aware of who God is now, because we got all these generations that don't have a clue that God is real and that he'll do what he said he'll do. And as simple as that is the way that the spirit of deception has come in and deceive so many people into believing that God ain't real, that God is black or white, that God is a female. Yeah, and all of these things have some truths to them, because God is not gendered per se, but he's a spirit nonetheless, And the scripture teaches us in the kingdom of God, there's neither male nor female.
That's right.
So all of the things that are going on, I mean, the ministry side of things has always been about leading people and discipling people in Christ.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt, man. And I, for a long time, man, when you're carrying that torch, from high school to college into the pros, and a lot of people say they believe God, right? But when you look at their actions, everybody does the interview after they have a great game. And, oh man, first of all, I want to thank the Lord Jesus Christ, or I want to thank God, and then next thing you know, they in the bar somewhere, or they,
popping off them, because you remember in our time, they had liquor in the locker room.
Oh,
they'd have a chest with soda and Gatorade, and then the other chest was beer and wine and stuff.
Yeah,
Them old heads,
boy,
they was getting full before they even got out the locker room.
Yeah, people didn't know that, man.
No, Bill
I was
Walton
like, man,
he was the worst at it. He used to say, did everybody get what they want? And he'd take the whole chest to his room.
Oh man, no, but people didn't know about the test and the trial and temptation that when you plan and you're good at something, nobody understands the test and nobody understands the trial or the temptation. I mean,
thank God they didn't have the internet back then, because a whole lot of cats would have been thought different of. because the internet is killing these young guys, because
Yeah.
everything they do is somebody's phone got it out, and and it's on social media platforms here and there. Man, if they'd have had that stuff in the 80s and 90s, the NBA might have collapsed. Because
Oh
you
my
had a
God.
bunch of illiterate guys in the sense that they were not educated. A lot of them couldn't even talk, and they were getting caught up in stuff,
Mm-hmm.
They were
Oh,
getting
yeah.
caught up in stuff. I mean, bad things, that shouldn't be on that level only because we've graduated from that. But a lot of them cats brought all that street stuff with them.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I was watching that thing on the on Magic and the LA Lakers. That
Mm-hmm.
the whole series. As I was watching, I was just laughing because, I just remember those times. I just remember
Yeah.
how players acted back then. I mean, we got a little resource, man, and man, you couldn't tell us nothing,
Yeah.
right? And then people like say, "Oh man, that can't be real." These players didn't do that back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
Woo.
Man, I remember the first time. It was like it was either my first game was in Milwaukee because I set out training camp in the first 4 or 5 games because of the contract disputes with them. I don't know. When we played in Indianapolis against the Pacers, and when we pulled up on the bus, we got there late. It was prostitutes lined up on the outside of the hotel just waiting. And they were waiting for these old heads because they had game back then. Them jokers called ahead, and I was amazed. I was like, "You can do this stuff?" and it was so much stuff back then that you look at and you say, "Man, you know what? If they had social media, this thing, boy, would have collapsed."
Woo, TMZ would have been on. Woo.
They'd have been living in the hotel getting stories.
Oh man. And you know what? One of the experience I enjoyed too was your not only ability to play basketball, to be the person that you are, but I in the ministry, but you provided me with an opportunity and to meet the Whinings back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. We went. I remember playing, and we was playing at Detroit Pistons, and we went to meet. I think we might have went to a concert. We went to dinner
Mm-hmm.
with the Whinings. I thought that was the coolest thing. And then I found out you could sing.
Man,
So
that's against the will of many of the people in my circle. They was like, "You just need to concentrate on basketball." And the thing is I love singing, and the thing is that it was until I got to San Diego that I actually got a perspective or a vision for the music that was in me, because I realized that in order for me to be successful in music, I was going to have to move around the people who were in my circle, because many a times they did nothing to encourage it. They went out their way to make me feel some kind of way about doing it, because I wasn't the best when I started. But I always think if you encourage people, you can bring the best out of them. But I wasn't encouraged. I was discouraged on every hand. but now I've been putting studios together from the ground up, wiring since about 84, 85, and learned to play keys while traveling on the road in the league. I traveled with a keyboard and a laptop and software, taught myself how to read and write music. I could always hear it, but I did not want to just play by hearing. I wanted to also be able to sit down, look at something in the key of C, D flat, E flat, whatever, and play those chord structures and scales,
Yeah.
And so I learned how to read and write music in my hotel room while I was playing.
Well, we had a lot of time, so
Yeah, but most people don't know that. They think that all your time is spent on that court, and really you just gotta, you have that little practice you have before the game, and then or early in the morning you eat, take your lunch, and then you go back to your room or whatever it is you do, and then you get ready for the game.
Yeah.
What the boss say?
She got to get me off mute first, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, She said, "Do you remember the first song you ever sung or you ever wrote?"
Yeah, it was a song called man, I remember it. Because Bill Maxwell was he was the guy that I met that introduced me to the Winans before you met him.
Right.
And I wrote the song and I had him and his band play it. And I remember this was a life lesson. He says, so what you gonna do with that song? I said, I'm gonna hold on to it because it's the best song I ever did. I said, I'm gonna hold on to it. And he said to me, he said, if you hold on to it, he said, nothing better is ever going to come. That thing shifted and changed everything in me about, it wasn't just about music, it was about life, learning that in order to get to greatness, you have to be willing to give up something equal to it, always. There's a cost for everything you do. And, you were talking about all the accolades of things I've done. I had to work harder than everybody else around me because my name was Terry Cummings, just to be taken seriously. And so I learned other avenues, writing, like I write music for other people. Me and my cousin have a huge library of things we've done together, from the Winans to BB and CC Winans, Michael McDonald, Whitney Houston. We have all of these people that we've written for. And, I did a song that T.D. Jakes wanted for this movie called Jumpin' the Broom. But they didn't have the funds for it, so I didn't give it to him. But his people called me back a week later and said he really wants this song. So the song wound up on Sacred Love Songs Part 2, and it's called Finally. Bishop Paul Morton is singing it. But I wrote that song. That's mine. It's a wedding song.
Yeah, somebody just popped at the bottom, man. Why don't you hit a couple of notes for us, man?
Back me up then. Back me up.
I asked him about the song because he sang it for us a long time ago, and I used to sing it, and I used to always give him credit, but I don't remember it. That's why I was saying
she don't remember it either.
But I sang it so much because it was such a beautiful
I remember that song too.
I used to sing it all the time.
Yeah, it'll probably come back when I get off the line.
Yeah, I remember you came up to Mount Vernon and preached for us.
I remember that too.
Yeah,
I remember that. Look at that there. All them young people. We was all young.
Y'all still look skinny.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. My girl tells me, she says every time he go on a diet or a fast or something, he lose weight and I pick it all up.
I know that's right.
Oh man. Yeah. And hey, here's a curiosity question real quick, man. Well, yeah, I got a couple of them. So Michael Jordan, you guys used to play in the summer league together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I know that, man. Nobody could beat y'all back then.
No, but it was the Pro-Am was laden with talent though, but every year we'd either one of us would win the MVP or share it between him and I. Because we were, and that picture that you showed has a history to it. Bill Cartwright had elbowed me for the second time because he flailed a lot. Mm-hmm. And I told him after the first time, I said, if it happens again, I said, I'm going to drop you. And the second time he hit me in the throat, I ran up on him and Mike came and grabbed me. And we had a conversation when we were walking there. The conversation went like this. He said, T, you don't do that, man. He said, he ain't worth it. He said, he knocked me out in practice last week with one of them. I said, well, he's about as big an idiot as I think he is. It's bread and butter. You knocking and hurting your bread and butter. But I ain't had no more issues with him. The rest of the time I played against him in the league, I didn't feel him touch me.
Oh, man. I got another curiosity question for you is the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Man, 19 years, man. If everybody looks up, Terry Cummings and look at the stats, and I've seen people with less than that.
Mm-hmm.
that are in the Hall of Fame right now. I mean, there's no way in the world you shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame right now.
I think too, Lowe's, we started on this a little earlier. I think when I retired and stepped away, I think, that affected or offended some people because I was given some opportunities they would say, well, why don't you come in as an assistant coach? And I was like, well, the last 7 years I've been a player coach, so why would I want to be an assistant coach now? I said, I tell you what I'll do. I said, I'll come and help you build your team from the ground up, because they needed that help, and they didn't move on it. So I just kind of retired, and I took about 3 years after I retired to just let my body heal up and decide on the direction that I wanted to go in. And as confident a person as I was at the end of those 3 years, I found out I was going through something because I'm a mama's boy. Mom died in 2000 and 2003 while going to the doctor for a checkup at the same time. I would go every year having symptoms like I was going through something in my body and they couldn't find nothing. And it was around the same time every year that my mom had passed. The doctor told me, he said, if I did not know better, he said, I would say you're depressed every year about this time. And I never correlated it until he said it. But after that, I got back on point and back on track because I know, mom and dad both would have wanted me to just go on and live, because those dark places, we all have to be careful of. There's nothing in our world that God cannot deliver us from, yes. And in a dark place, the enemy will tell you that you cannot get out. But that's a lie from the pit of hell. Amen. Those are the times that we really need to entrust ourselves to God and to fight to do so, because you're going to have to, because you got the scripture talks about this where Jesus said that when he was in the darkness, that he threw off principalities and powers. He was telling us that these very demons, these very spirits that were trying to bind him and hold him down, he threw them off and then went and ripped the vesture from Satan in which he trusted. So the thing is the fight takes place not necessarily in the light where everyone can see it, but in the dark places where the only people who know about it are the ones who are there.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That before I preached.
Oh man, yeah.
I got what my mama called it. Can't help it.
Yeah. And what's some other things that you got going on now? I know you got the ministry and you're still doing music. And
we're doing the Terry Cummings story and a docu-series. We just finished the trailer for it. So we got probably a few more months of shooting: Milwaukee, LA, New York, a couple other places in the north, Michigan and Indiana. I've got another CD that I've actually been done with for about 4 years, but been lazy about doing the closeout, the mixings, and making sure the vocals are right. And then I've got a book I'm working on called I Walk with Giants. And I think it's taken a little while to finish because I can't figure out whether I want to write it in a secular or non-secular perspective. It may just be best to write it in both, because in part the Giants, yourself being one, we walked in this sphere of influence where we have affected the majority of people around the world. That makes us giants, and but that, and I've got a praise and worship, my first one that I'm working on, and instrumental project as well. So I got a plate full of stuff. It's just I've been prioritizing it so I don't drive myself crazy.
Yeah. So I know Treese just showed a picture, man. Did you sing at the 2020 All-Star game?
No, I don't think I did anything in Chicago. But I was there with my family, and they gave me an award.
Oh, okay.
The Slam Dunk Faith and Endurance Award from the people there. They have the biggest gospel brunch, and they've been doing it. And I work with them, so it was a blessing to be there. Got to hang out with my family. Got my family coming out to the event, so it was really good.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago. It's been about 5 years now, I think, where I wrote my first book, From the Boys and Girls Club to the NBA Life on the Narrow Road, and we launched it at the NBA All-Star breakfast in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was that dude on the front?
Hey man, I was trying to keep my hair, So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I shaved mine off in my 20s, man. I saw some cowlicks. I was like, oh, well, gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy I still got all mine.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank God for that. I look in the mirror. I was like, thank you, Lord. I
I
don't know what
know,
I would be like, bald, man.
man. It ain't the worst of things. It takes about 2 to 5 minutes every 2 or 3 days shaving it for me. I shaving it and my facial hairs, and I'm good. I'm good to go.
Pastor, tell us about Hope Janita.
When we first started the ministry, it was called Hope Ministries, and for the first few years of its existence. And then when we came into Hope Janita, the Lord had given me a revelation on the word Janita, which means to become something that I never was before. And what was born out of it is Hope Janita Ministries International. And I think every ministry, name changes or visual changes, whatever the case may be, should grow in the revelation that they have. And Hope Janito has just been, man, from there to just watching the people grow into something that they've never been before on every level of faith, every month, every year, seeing different changes in people. It lets me know that we're in the right place. But the ministry itself is not just a church ministry. We're an outreach. We once a month we drive to Peachtree City, which is about an hour away from where our site is that we have the food, and we drive back another hour. We unpack, we repack, and then we get out with the people in the street, on the street level, and we feed them. We pack stuff into their trunks. We pray for them, and to me, that is the real ministry of Hope Janito Ministries, is that we literally get out and we rub shoulders with the people where their needs are, and it's a blessing. It's been one of the great things in my life I look forward to.
Yeah. And I don't know if you see the question at the bottom from Antonio. Does Terry believe that we are in the end times? And if so, does Christ the King come back as a lion warrior who expels Satan and the followers from the earth forever? The power of Christ is strong.
Yeah, that's what the word says in Thessalonians, in the book of Revelations. Everything points to the fact that when the soon to come King comes, he will destroy all that Satan has done. And the scripture tells us that Jesus came into the world to destroy the works of the devil. He didn't come to play with them. So when he comes back, he's going to finish that work. So that the answer is absolutely, I believe that. And I believe that meanwhile, we have to live our lives as such that we know that and are not caught up in the cycles of what is going on in these media frenzies of, which Satan, being the prince and the power of the media or the air, has provocated on his own. He's put that stuff out there, and saints who's supposed to be strong and prayerful don't even know what God is doing, so they lend their ear to this machine, and it corrupts the goodness of God, the purity of God, and the holiness of God in churches, in the people. And my job is, as well as yours, Lowe's, is to make sure that people know the one true and living God, in spite of all this propaganda and deception that's going on around us.
Yeah, without a doubt. And one of the things I believe too, as well, many of us for a long time, including myself, believe, that we're waiting for the Lord to come, and we are waiting to go to heaven. I believe we're in the process right now of helping to bring heaven here.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be able to manifest those things that are in heaven while we're here on earth.
I believe that.
Yeah.
He said, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven."
Yeah.
And scripturally, a lot of what has been taught and preached to us is erroneous. And we have to get into the Word and have a relationship with God that allows Him to speak to us, not only through Logos, but through the living Word, where He gives revelation of the Logos, so that we might understand how we attain to the right now God and what the right now God is doing. You know, because it's so easy for everyone to say, well, I'm following this book, the Logos, I'm following it. But God has moved beyond that. The revelation of God moves us beyond the written word. He reveals to us not only what He meant, but what He's doing, you know, in this time. And Amos 3:7 says that God won't do anything till He first reveal it to His prophets. So God is speaking. The problem is we're not listening, you know.
Well, yeah. Wow. And I hope y'all got that nugget. Those are nuggets and dimes that you just dropped there, man. And I mean, we could go on and on and on, man. But yeah, this has been wonderful, man.
Man, it's been good, man, just to catch up with you.
Yes,
and,
sir.
and Patrice, and then to hear you all, to see you all. You know, the older we get, we need to put more effort and time into having moments like these, because in the end, you know, your kids get older, they have families, they put the time and effort into those things, and if you ain't careful, you get left out there on the side just twiddling your thumbs like you ain't got nothing to do. But you got people in your life that want to be a part of your life. You know, we don't always give them that option, but the fellowship of men, and I saw this in something you were doing on your preview into the show. One of the great things of now is the ministry to men. Women have gotten the point of it. They're out in the forefront on so many levels, but where they're losing it is they're leaving men behind. And to the point, the Lord showed me, He showed me something in a dream where the women were on a boat and they were pushing the men away and going further and further out where the man could no longer protect them and give them security. And then the enemy came and destroyed them in the boat because they had no protection. And the Lord told me, He said, begin to share with the men to get themselves back in the place that they belong, and not to be caught up in this concerted effort by the world to destroy men, you know, men of color, men in general. Amen. And for the men to be who God says they are, because it makes the woman better. It makes her stronger. It brings the protection and the security. And when they work together, like, you know, you and Patrice, you know, you have, you know, an awesome opportunity to do things that many times other people won't have.
Right. And then you have that balance. Right. Yeah, you guys be working together. And also it brings that balance on how you leave a legacy.
Yeah.
You know, how you raise young men and women, you know, when you have that balance.
Right.
Yeah.
And it ain't gonna always be, you know, the easy route. It's not gonna always work out like, you know, you write your book and every word falls in place, every I is dotted, every T is crossed. The truth of the matter is that in being an example and training and mentoring people, you have to always remember you cannot lead people places you won't go, and you can't teach them things you don't know. You know, so the balance of life is in, you know, for me, it's love. You have to love the hell out of people. And what I mean by that, you got to love that devil out of a lot of people, and everything that is reflective of hell. You got to love it out of them. And that don't mean you got to be tissue paper soft. It means that you need to learn the balance. You know, love ain't weak. Love is a strength, you know.
Yes, it is.
And it can win people over, you know, when we utilize love rightly.
That's right. I agree with you 100% there, without a doubt. But man, I want to say thank you, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule and spending some time to fellowship with us this evening, man.
Well, you
Yeah, this has
already
been
know,
great.
Lowe's. Anything for you, man. I appreciate you all.
I appreciate you too. And so, again, thanks. And man, I'll be looking forward to doing this again. And I can't wait to get down to. We got to get back down to Atlanta.
Yeah, come on, y'all, come on.
Come on and go to Hope Geneva.
You know what? Most people mess it up. So,
Ejanito.
Ejanito.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
well, she got it down pat.
You know, you could find the understanding of it in the first chapter of the Gospel of John, the first chapter, when it says Jesus came down in the form of flesh. He egenito down into flesh and became something he never was before. So that's where it comes from.
Awesome.
I just talked about that today, so absolutely. I told you I should have done this first and then preached today.
Man, hey, let's stay in contact, man.
I'm here. I'm gonna make sure we do.
Yes, sir. And so for everyone, you know, I've seen your comments there. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for your support each and every week. You know, like I always say, I love you guys, man. And I pray that you continue this week. Man, have a blessed week, man. And I said it last week, and I've been saying it for the last few weeks. Every day you wake up, I pray that you enjoy it. And like I said last week, the great John Wooden said, make every day your masterpiece. I love you guys. God bless you. And see you next week. Don't forget, AJ Woodson next week. Love you guys.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Lowe's More, the Blueprint Podcast. Stay connected and follow us at our website, www.lowesmore.com. That's LOWESMOORE.com. You can also join the discussion on Twitter at Lowe's More and on Facebook at Lowe's More Jr. As always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast to stay fully up to date with everything we're up to. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
What they teaching is a joke. I ain't buying it like I'm broke. Insufficient funds for insignificant.